another Eddie Hearn based one. What a shocker. He seems to be the man of the moment. It's from S James, or at James1776_S. Should have just called yourself James. Eddie Hearn, Sky Sports platform, IFL views behind him, $1 billion DAZN money, overachieving, underachieving, or so-so?
I think he's on the right track. I don't think he's underachieving. I don't think he's overachieving. I don't think he's so-so. I think he's on the right track, you know. Obviously, we can't really compare anything to the pandemic situation, because guess what? A lot of people don't care about boxing when there's a global pandemic going on. But prior to the global pandemic, you know, the man, you know, you gotta give him credit, man. Like, you just have to. The guy's changed the sport of boxing in the UK over the last few years. He's brought in even the whole matchroom production. I'm loving what they're doing. Even the YouTube situation, everything's going on a track where that's why a lot of people are becoming boxing fans. You know, they're seeing these things change. They're seeing different scenarios. They're seeing AJ fill out 80,000, 90,000 in Wembley time after time. And yeah, I think he's on track. I guess it's a good question, but it's a simple answer for me.
I'd say he's doing well in the UK. I'd say he's probably underachieving in the US. If I had to kind of make a choice on it, I'd say the money that was invested by DAZN, the expectations of the fans, and you've got to say Hearn stoked those expectations. It's not like he played them down. He mentioned a lot of big names that he'd be offering contracts to, and he probably did offer contracts to them, but a lot of them stayed with whoever they were with at the time, PBC being one of them. And I think he would have liked to see a lot more big events with bigger live gates, better television ratings by now in the US. They've been here for a year now. I think he would have liked to have made a bigger kind of splash by this point.
But you have to think about it, though. The US market's a hard one to crack. There's so many big spots in the US, and also these big fighters are with bigger promoters. In sense that he's worked with Mikey Garcia, the fact that he's worked with Golovkin, he can't. You know, Canelo's working with DAZN, but it's not Matchroom. You have to give him the due of respect that, you know, you're going over to America. It's going to be hard to crack, and so far so good, because everyone knows him as Eddie Hearns over there. You know, I'll tell you one thing though, once DAZN comes to the UK, it's going to be a different game changer, because that's when DAZN will properly be like, okay, if they can snap up Premier League in the UK, it's over.
It's over.
It's over. Call the
I think there was a lot of resentment for Hearn and Matchroom USA when it first started from the other promoters, and even from some of the media that maybe are aligned to certain promoters as well. I think there was a lot of credit from certain people in the US saying, yeah, you know, live gates in the US are down, shows aren't doing that well on TV. Look what Eddie Hearn's doing in Europe. It's amazing. Look at those Wembley and Millennium Stadium crowds chanting for Joshua. And so when he decided, I'm going to bring some of that to the US, I think there was a lot of resentment from the US promoters and stuff saying, well, the US market's very different. He's not going to find it as easy over here. Who's this guy who thinks he can take over what we've been doing for years and years? And to an extent, they've been proved right, because he hasn't made huge progress. However, he has been relatively successful. He hasn't kind of completely fallen on his face either. And I think there's more to come. I think DAZN, as we've seen recently from the rumours, it's not a bottomless pit of money. Although the guy who owns DAZN has got a huge personal fortune, he's not going to keep ploughing it into DAZN forever. I think it's a make or break year in the next 12 months for them. If they can get the rights that they need to really push those subscription to where they need to be for like a break-even point in the next couple of years, then great. But otherwise, you know, he's already looking to sell. There's been changes in the executive at the top as well. So there's obviously things aren't going quite to plan for DAZN either. So it's going to be interesting to see how that kind of maps out.
I think the AJ loss did not help either, because that was the big money, taking it to the US, and then, you know, making Anthony Joshua that US superstar. Him losing that fight, they had to take it somewhere else, and, you know, the rematch and all that, because essentially if he won that fight, maybe he would have had another fight out there as well, and, you know, just a bit like how Fury's doing it with the Wallin fight and the Schwartz fight. I think that's what they were trying to build with, but the defeat really turned everything on its head. But other than that, if you take away that they had that hiccup, you know, they've put on good fights out there. Even when you talk about the YouTube fight, going back to that again, like, you can't lie. Like, that was it gained traction. That's the main thing in boxing. I don't care if the main event wasn't something you didn't want to see. It gained traction.
We've had some breaking news from our old friend Boxing's First, who asked our first viewer question as well. He said that from what he's heard or read, the Amanda Serrano reality show offer was for an obstacle course style reality show. So I'm thinking, I don't know, Total Wipeout crossed with Funhouse, something like that. Takeshi's Castle, even. I don't know if you know
Okay,
any of them
that
shows.
sounds.
Funhouse is probably before your time.
No, I've not heard of that. I'm seeing something about Eddie Hearn here as well, that he's just spoken to the Athletic Bucks. Shall I read it out for you?
Yeah, go for it. I haven't got a subscription.
I wouldn't like to see the Zone become a pay-per-view platform because that's not their ethos. But I do think to introduce the capacity to do it would be interesting. The only way they're going to be able to air certain fights is pay-per-view fights like Fury and AJ. That's mad that that's just come out. Like, I've just seen that now because we're talking about that situation.
Can you just say ethos for me again, just once?
No.
Your voice
alone.
just went incredibly higher when you said it.
Ethos.
Yeah, it's crazy that the whole thing. I mean, a lot of people saw this coming. I should say that anyway. But the whole concept of the Zone was based on the fact that American-based boxing, was predicated upon pay-per-view. We were told, and in the UK we've been told this as well by Eddie Hearn and other promoters, that the biggest fights cannot happen without pay-per-view because of the purse demands of the fighters. The Zone came along as a refreshing, apparently, alternative. You can pay a subscription fee, you still get the really big fights, and you'll never have to pay pay-per-view. Well, we're only 1 year into the project, and we're already being told, well, that's not true. And for the very biggest fights, we will need to pay an extra fee on top. So it's a bit disappointing, if rather inevitable.
Yeah, but I guess it's kind of expected with boxing. You don't know what's gonna flip and happen next. You don't know what the next turn is, and I guess with the situation like this, you can't take upon someone's word because Fury AJ just has to be pay-per-view. It's incredibly crazy if it's not.
Hi fans, it's Michelle Joy Phelps. If you haven't already subscribed to my YouTube channel, make sure you go ahead and do so by clicking this icon right here and hit the bell button so you can get notified every time we upload a new video. And we also have a free app available on iTunes and Google Play, so make sure you go and download that. Bye, fight fans.